Now, welcome back. ActionSA's Athol Trollip has submitted a notice on their intention to introduce the Constitution 22nd Amendment Bill. That's in Parliament. The proposal, which is open for public participation until the 24th of August, seeks to change the requirements on appointments of cabinet ministers and proposes the reducing of cabinet, amongst other things. Joining us now for this conversation is Athol Trollip then himself. Mr. Trollip, appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. If I go through just some parts of it, please allow me to, just because I want to give context, of course, before we start things off. The hope of this bill is to amend the constitution of the country, right? So as to abolish the office of deputy minister. So abolish the office of deputy minister is the first thing, and to delete any reference to deputy minister. Then, therefore, to increase the number of ministers that may be selected from outside the National Assembly. That's another point. To ensure the National Assembly's approval of every ministerial appointment, meaning taking it away from the president just doing it on his own, and to require the creation of a committee in the National Assembly to give effect to this requirement and to provide a motion of no confidence in a minister for matters connected therewith. All right, let's unpack why you felt it was ultimately now finally necessary, because this has been a cry for quite some time, to finally put forward this amendment.
Yeah, thanks very much, Arabile. First of all, it's been a long time in the making, and the reason for that is that our cabinets seem to get bigger and bigger with each successive president. And we've seen now with President Ramaphosa, we have the biggest cabinet in the world. And in fact, just last weekend, it got even bigger, where he appointed Firoz Kashalia from outside of Parliament to take over from the Minister of Police, who's been placed on special leave. So we now have 76 members of cabinet, including cabinet deputy ministers. And to us as ActionSA, we believe it's completely unsustainable, just costs too much money. And then deputy ministers have got no real constitutional or executive authority. So for all intents and purposes, they are just doormen and doorwomen for the minister. For example, now in the case of the Minister of Police, who's been placed on special leave, the president couldn't even use one of the deputy ministers who'd been there for the last year, because either they're unsuitable or two, he doesn't believe they have the necessary qualities to lead the department. So that's a classic reason why we believe we could save South African taxpayers a whole lot of money by doing away with deputy ministers. They serve no real good purpose. And then, of course, we go back to what we believe is an opposite size of cabinet. We believe that this country, a country of our size, population, economy, could very easily be run by a cabinet of 20 ministers. No need for any more than that. But we've got significantly more than that, and we believe it's time to bring this motion. It's a bill, a private member's bill, to change the constitution. It will require the support of the majority of the House. I don't know if that will succeed, but at least we'll be able to know which parties are looking to saving costs and to cut down the size of cabinet. This proposal of mine also goes hand in hand with another private member's legislation that one of my colleagues, Alan Beasley, has brought, which is the Cut Cabinet Perks Bill, which seeks to reduce the perks that ministers and deputy ministers have, and also to limit the power of the president to make changes around remuneration and perks as and when he wants.
Yeah.
And also, quite significantly about my proposal, is the president still has the right to appoint the ministers that he believes are suitable, but Parliament needs to vet those people. We've seen that he has appointed a number of ministers in this current cabinet that have got clouds of corruption hanging over their heads, and we believe that that's simply not good enough in South Africa, where corruption is one of our greatest challenges. So we believe that these two pieces of legislation will tidy things up very nicely when it comes to improving the way the cabinet works and is appointed.
Yeah, I mean, for one, internationally, there's some areas in the world where particular positions then within the country, whether it be the cabinet or otherwise, are actually held under some sort of investigation first. You actually go through a whole lot of interview processes, and those are even ministerial positions too. Do you feel that that would ultimately change the kind of people we have in those positions? Because That becomes a key element here. Would it not just slow down the work we need to get done also as ministers, as deputy ministers, etc., in those departments if we were to take this on by committee?
Yeah, Arabile, it actually won't slow the work down. You know, there's already provision from one election to the next that those people who are serving as ministers during an election and for the period after the election before the new ministers are appointed, they continue operating as ministers in those ministries. So the same provision would prevail. It wouldn't have to take forever for a committee to go through the number of ministers, especially if you're reducing them, because it's just a suitability check. And it's to make sure that they don't have any clouds of corruption hanging over their heads, like Minister Semelani, for example, who the president just simply moved from justice to housing when the pressure became untenable. He didn't take any direct action. He simply just moved her from one ministry to another. So we are saying that we definitely need more public scrutiny to avoid, you know, good cadres being awarded with cabinet posts simply because they happen to be good cadres. We want good ministers. We believe that there's a dearth of ethical leadership in this country and that this is a way of improving the quality of leaders that will be appointed by the president to serve as members of cabinet.
Yeah.
So the president still has the authority to do that. And in fact, we've gone one step further. We've increased the number of people that the president can appoint from outside of Parliament from 2 to 4. Because we believe that there are certain positions that require people with specific skills. For example, policing. We believe that a minister of police should come from the ranks of the police. And we also believe that a minister of defense should come from the ranks of the defense force, somebody who understands defense. We've now got a minister who destroyed education and took education pass rate down to 30%, who's now the minister of defense. And I would venture that our defense force isn't even a 30% defense force under her leadership. So we're making provisions that are in the interest of the country. They might not be in the interest of the governing party, but that's not what leadership and politics is about.
Yeah.
Leadership and politics of a cabinet is about running a country properly. And we believe that these proposals that we are making will certainly improve how our country is run.
How do you think this works, though, in a government of national unity? Especially because if we are to have this by committee, it means that you'd need certain people or you'd need a particular amount of votes, perhaps, to get somebody back into that particular seat of government. We'll just take police, for example. You'd need a particular amount of people to have voted, maybe 50% or 50 plus 1, to ensure that this person makes it into that department then. And if that person is not, for example, of a particular party, you'll find particular parties moving and jostling and voting in a different manner. Is that not going to be cumbersome and worrisome as well for things like cadre deployment and the work to be done?
No, I don't think so. In fact, I think it averts cadre deployment. It prevents people being appointed simply because they happen to belong to one party or another. What it does, it actually will make provision for a committee that's representative of Parliament. It could even be proportionally representative. And then that committee would have to come up not with spurious or subjective reasons why the person can't be the minister. They can't simply say they can't be the minister because they happen to come from party X. They need to make a substantive reason why the person is not suitable. And, you know, there are mechanisms to do that. There are many mechanisms. We have people that are being appointed regularly in South Africa by parliamentary committees to Section 9 committees. We have the Judicial Service Commission appointing judges, making recommendations to the president. These things happen all the time. It's not new. It's just now making it applicable to the appointment of an executive. And I think it just makes it more watertight, and it will ensure that we have better people in positions of leadership.
Yeah, the key concern here being the unvetted power then of the president in appointing, reappointing or firing then of ministers, deputy ministers, etc. as well, being a key proponent of all of this then. Do you think this proposal gets some kind of support? I know earlier you said you don't know how much at this point, but do you see some perhaps rallying with you at the very least to make it an avid cry that at least could be tabled for discussion and debate within Parliament?
Well, look, constitutional amendments take a two-thirds majority, so this will be a steep hill to climb. The amendment to the cut cabinet perks bill should be easier to get past muster, and I believe most South Africans and their political representatives have had enough of people living large off the public purse. So I think that that one might fly easier. This one might get some headwinds. But I think it's also very important for South Africans to see which political parties are supporting or not supporting an endeavor to make sure we have a more accountable, more suitable, more effective government. And one of the provisions in this piece of legislation that I'm bringing to Parliament is that it makes provision for members of Parliament to bring a motion of no confidence against a particular minister. Currently, there's only a provision to bring a motion of no confidence against the president. And if that succeeds, then obviously the whole cabinet goes with the president. In this proposal of mine, it allows for Parliament to bring a motion of no confidence against a particular minister and to vote on that in Parliament. And I think that makes the cabinet much more accountable. It makes the cabinet accountable to Parliament, the people, and the president.
Yeah, what about lobbying? Because at this point, you would have to then lobby some people to come through and sort of understand this bill and be part of the vote if it does come to that as well then. And understanding that a lot of some of these parties would have been members of the GNU and perhaps their own deputy ministers are the ones that are said to be cut from the cabinet if this was to go through. Would you be doing that sort of lobbying?
We most certainly will be lobbying every single political party and every individual member of Parliament. At the moment, as you said, that this is now open for 30 days for public participation and commentary. We look forward to the public participation and the commentary. We've already received some very positive support from organizations in South Africa that look to improving governance and accountability. But yeah, there are going to be people that have vested interests. It's unlikely that a deputy minister is going to be voting for themselves to lose their job. But this isn't about putting individuals first in their jobs. This is about fixing South Africa, and it's about making sure that we have a lean, mean government that can govern properly and that doesn't have to keep looking for new ways to fund the fiscus, whether increasing VAT by 2% and then 1% and then increasing the fuel levy. We really have been going through a bit of a charade lately with our budget. So we need to bring a semblance of sanity back to South Africa, cut the size of our cabinet according to the cloth that we have, and then govern accordingly and make sure that we prevent waste and we prevent profligacy. We've seen that with traveling abroad, this GNU cabinet has got a massive appetite for flying overseas. We believe by the end of the year that they've been in government, it'll be close to 400 million rand on traveling abroad.
Wow.
And most of that flying has been done by deputy ministers. So that's another reason why we believe that there shouldn't be any deputy ministers. Why are the deputy ministers flying all over the world on collecting Voyager miles and traveling business class? It's simply unacceptable. And they're living way beyond their means and way beyond our means as a country.
I remember the late Pravin Gordhan, former finance minister, had been saying that he would prefer to actually just travel in economy class then in order to ensure that his costs are saved. Athol, your best friends in this case would ultimately be the EFF and the MK party, wouldn't it? Because they're not in the GNU.
Yeah, look, I think there are parties in the GNU that will support this legislation. I have no doubt about that. And obviously MK and the EFF don't have any ministry positions or deputy ministers, so they might certainly go along with it. I don't see that this piece of legislation, this proposed constitutional amendment, should actually be parochial. It should not be about particular parties. It's about South Africans making decisions in the interest of their country and in the interest of the governance of their country and making sure that we govern the country properly. And if people can find it in their hearts to vote across party lines and vote for this, I think it would be really good for South Africa. It would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Athol, you said we've been noting that this is out, of course, for comment until late in August then as well. Would you just help South Africans understand where exactly they can participate in any kind of conversation around this?
Look, I don't know if I've actually got the reference, but I will send it to you
All
so
right.
that you can send it out.
Sure.
I don't
Okay.
have it right here with me. As I said, I've been off from Parliament for a while. I had an operation.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure that I have it sent to your studio, and that you can let your viewers and listeners know, and they can participate.